And welcome to Facts or Frauds.
Mr. Greco, your opening statements.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. It is illegal to drive a motor vehicle on the road in the state of Michigan without a valid driver's license. It is illegal to drive a motor vehicle on the road in the city of Taylor in the state of Michigan without a valid driver's license or a revoked license. It is illegal to drive a moped on the road in traffic on a public street without a valid driver's license or with a revoked license. It is illegal to operate a moped on the road in the city of Taylor in the state of Michigan without a restricted moped license if you are only between the ages of 15 and 19 years old. So if you're over the age of 19, you need a driver's license, a regular driver's license, requiring a road test regarding issued by the Secretary of State. But if you are 15 years old, you can apply for a moped license to only operate a moped, but the Secretary of State will not renew it past your 19th birthday. You would have to get a regular driver's license to operate a motor vehicle on the road. So it's July 11th, 2023 at approximately 4 p.m. at Rocco and North Line Road. Officer Borg is on patrol. He observes an individual on a moped stopped in the roadway with what appears to be a flat tire. The person gets off the bike, the moped, gets back on after inspecting the tire, turns into Heritage Park. Officer Borg, you're going to hear testify, sees this, comes in behind the person because of the flat tire, and then at that time observes that he recognizes the person as somebody who he's dealt with before, who he believes is operating on a revoked or suspended license. We are here because the defendant, Mr. Eric Martin, was operating a motor vehicle, a moped, without a valid license in the city of Taylor on the roadway on July 11th, 2023. Now you might be saying to yourself, what could possibly be the defenses in this case? I'm not exactly sure. We got a little preview of them through some of the questions, but I believe one of them is going to be that my name is Eric Martin. I'm a living man. I'm not sure if I'm a person. I'm a living man, but I'm not subject to the laws of the state of Michigan or the city of Taylor. That is not true. I'd say I'm not required to have a driver's license to operate a motor vehicle, including a moped, in the state of Michigan, in the city of Taylor, because it's unconstitutional that the state and or the city of Taylor require an operator's license, driver's license, to drive on the road. Not true. He might suggest that he wasn't operating a motor vehicle that day or driving a motor vehicle that day, that he was traveling, and that under the Constitution protects against interstate travel. He was doing none of those things. He was operating a motor vehicle, which the state of Michigan regulates by driver's licenses, by having certain requirements, and then certain things that you can do to get your license revoked, which we're not into here. The fact of the matter is on July 11th, Officer Borg pulled over an individual operating a motor vehicle in the city of Taylor without a valid license and, in fact, a revoked license. I am confident after you hear the judge give you the jury instructions, and he already read to you what is going to be the jury instruction before, of what the requirements of this case, of what the prosecution has to prove. That is simply that the defendant operated a motor vehicle, on a highway or a place open to the general public and accessible to motor vehicles, and third, that the defendant's operator license was suspended or revoked. You are sitting on the jury. You are the fact finders. You are the fact finders that finds what you believe is true and then apply it to the law as the judge indicates what the law is to do, and then determine whether or not the defendant violated the law. I'm confident when you hear all of the proofs in this case, after you hear the testimony and any further argument that there may be, that you will find the defendant guilty. Thank you.
Mr. Martin, your opening statement.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Okay, so I'm a living man, one of the Slaven people, fraudulently assumed defendant. Again, I know that might be above your guys' head because that's something more someone knows that's been studying law for 20 years, more advanced stage, but it's backed up by laws called Rome Necessity Trust, corporation, a defendant. But anyways, I got some proof to prove that, some laws going to prove that. The law applies that someone, actually the words used specifically in the state law, a person must have a driver's license to drive a motor vehicle, okay? So that's the first fraudulent thing that's being done here. I'm a human being that's being fraudulently assumed to be the person, and I'm going to show you a Supreme Court's case law that says a person is not one of the sovereign people, as a person is defined in statutes. This is the U.S. Supreme Court talking here, not just me. Now, this whole case started from the harassment and retaliation of Anthony Borger, the police officer. He sees me riding down the street and calls me over, hey, come over here. And he had no probable cause. Just he recognized me as one of these, I'm a prolific complaint writer on the cops' misconduct, him and his friends. I don't have all the complaints with me now. I wanted to have them, but it was, the last stage. I thought about bringing all that. I tried to, I wanted to adjourn the trial, actually, so I can get that evidence to show all the complaints I filed. So if there's going to be any dispute whether I filed a whole bunch of complaints with the police, which supports my retaliation claim, which is the whole reason why this case was brought up by him in retaliation, because, like I said, I filed a lot of complaints on his officers. Now, besides that, as to a flat tire, you can kind of see it's kind of obvious that this is not just a case where he's enforcing law doing the right thing. You see someone with a flat tire. Is that a reason to pull someone? He wrote that ticket actually on a flat tire. Having a flat tire. Talk about nonsense. Talk about harassment, retaliation. Like having a flat tire is something wrong in this world. When someone gets a flat tire, what is wrong with it? Nothing. But he writes a defective ticket for that. That just shows, like I said, his retaliation, his animosity against me. But none of this will scare me and discourage me from enforcing my rights. I've been doing this 28 years. I'm going to keep doing it. I'm one of God's righteous soldiers and warriors who stand for my rights and the people's rights. I truly represent the people. These guys, on the other hand, they don't represent the people. Probably what do they represent? They represent the city, corporation that wants to make money out of people's rights, violating people's rights. Such as this. This is all about, really, the charge is about me exercising my right to travel on my moped. Okay, and I don't dispute that I was traveling by right on my moped. Now, I know the state law, well, maybe it's more for I don't go into too much detail. I'm supposed to be more briefer. But basically, it's about me traveling by right. Despite what he says, the U.S. Supreme Court says we have that right. He calls it not traveling by right. But as I'm going to show you word for word, the U.S. Supreme Court case law in the closing argument, that I was traveling by right. And I ask that you guys, like I said, do the right thing, and you guys should remember a not guilty verdict, because I'm going to show you by the law that's printed out of a law book how, one, I'm not liable under the state statute because I'm not a person, I'm a human being. It may sound, in case it be a certain thing, that may sound crazy. How can a human being? Well, it goes back to the Declaration of Independence, which I also have a copy right out of the law books. That government derives just power for the consent of the government. Meaning they must get our consent to hold us accountable for laws. At least laws, there's no injured party, no human beings or property's been harmed, such as in this case. They don't have my consent. Move forward anyways, violating that. Violating the 13th Amendment, right against slavery. So like I said, it wasn't a person, and it was exercising my right to travel, and we're trying to convert this right to travel into a crime, which they're not allowed to do, by calling it driving. See, this is how most people don't know it's called legalese in the law. So this is how they get into, they're putting a blanket over people that have, people that don't study law. They call it, what they're calling traveling by right is, they're calling it driving a motor vehicle. But there's a federal statute I have. Surprised I couldn't find on my paper, but it's 18 U.S.C. section 31, subsection 6 and 10. That defines a motor vehicle. Remember, the state statutes just say, remember, you need a license to drive a motor vehicle. Okay, now the state code just say a motor vehicle is anything mechanically drawn, excluding electric bikes and other electric things. But federal statute 18 U.S.C. section 31, subsection 6 and 10 defines a motor vehicle as one not just mechanically drawn, but also one being used to carry passenger property for profit. And again, the reason why they made the statute Congress is because of our right to travel, which is supported by U.S. Supreme Court case law, Packard versus Banton, which I'm going to show you right out of the law book. This ain't nothing, that I made up. This says the same thing, basically. The legislator cannot regulate the use of the roads unless the people are using the roads for profit, because that is the privilege. And that's where the license is needed. And I acknowledge that. That's what I wasn't doing it at the time. As the evidence is going to show, also has no evidence that I was carrying passenger property for profit. Meaning I wasn't driving a motor vehicle. Yes, the state codes might not support me on that. I agree with that. Not on that argument right there anyways, but the federal statute does, and Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution makes it clear that federal statutes are supreme law of the land. It overrides state statutes, meaning the federal definition must be applied here and listened to of a motor vehicle, which is carrying passenger property for profit. They got no evidence of it. They can't prove a case that I was driving without a license. Actually, I beat the case on the same thing in Southgate, which I meant to bring the order up, but I didn't. I forgot. It was one of the few things I forgot. But you said a whole bunch.
Mr. Martin, you're not going to be able to talk about a case on Southgate.
I didn't know that.
It's not relevant to these proceedings.
Well, can I respond to why I think it is relevant? Because I'd like to do that.
No, I'm just telling you it's not relevant, and I'm not going to have you convolute the case with something from a different case from a different city. Because I don't have any clue what they're talking about with that case over there. So it has nothing to do with the relevance here.
Okay, but that's also, basic. Like I said, we're going to go more in depth of closing armor, but we're going to sum that up then. Pretty much said everything I want to say, but based on that, because I wasn't driving a motor vehicle, exercising my right to travel, and because I was being harassed and retaliated against from the jump, he had no probable cause to pull me over. Case should be dismissed. Misconduct on his part. And also, one other thing, as a criminal enforcement officer, his duty in realm is to stay within enforcing criminal laws. Okay? And under I don't know the statute may call it a criminal law. I realize that. But you understand, statutes violate people's constitutional rights in the common law all day long. I can point out 1,000 different things which are going to be found class actions in getting rid of these statutes that violate people's rights. But anyway, common law says crime is only when the human or property is harmed, and that's how it should be. Because if they're holding people in jail, locking people up for not harming no one, why they're doing it? They're doing it because the city can make money. Everyone can make money off of violating people's rights. It's a damn shame. And then, so anyway, so he's acting outside of his criminal law enforcement realm and acting as a civil revenue officer because everyone's getting paid. And by the way, he's getting double time on this, and these cops that get overtime pay for coming to court. So they're encouraged to write tickets.
Mr. Martin, you're bringing in things that are not even in evidence, that are not even relevant to these proceedings.
Yeah, I planned on making up a question on it, but I'm going to be questioned on that. Okay, well, so I guess that's about it. Like I said, as you guys do the right thing, do the godly thing. Stand for the people's right, find me innocent as I am. I'm not someone who thinks I can go around hurt people or property. This is a victimless so-called crime. I haven't harmed no one. I should be sitting in jail for it, but you see the statute, like he said, right? It's up to 93 days in jail. And a fine for doing what? Nothing wrong, haven't harmed no one. As far as a driver's license, Slaven, I don't know if I should if I'm allowed to comment on this, but so I am told unless it says otherwise. But a license ain't really necessary for the safety of it. You know, I've been riding my motorcycle, you know, actually got a separate case of that, but, and this moped for a long time, years, kind of crashing on. It's not necessary for a license. All you gotta do is pay attention, common sense. What's the speed limit? Stop at a stop sign, turn the left signal on. It doesn't take a GED, it doesn't take a college degree, it doesn't take a license. I admit it's better. It might be better and it's supposed to just be recommended, but it's not. Where they're violating people's rights on this to travel by saying you must have one. And then they're not even calling what's really a license to drive a motor vehicle, truthfully. Again, if repeat myself again, man. When they're exercising right to travel, they're calling it driving a motor vehicle, and they're really not. And then that's a privilege. But like I said, as I'm going to show you, the U.S. Supreme Court defines driving a motor vehicle as when you're only using the roads for profit. The federal statute makes that clear. So, yes, you guys should find me not guilty and stand for the people's rights and don't allow this corporation. This is what this prosecutors represent. You know, Slaven, he denied all my motions on this, so they're denying my constitutional left and right. It's necessary that people stand for the people's rights, or they're going to keep violating people's rights. We shouldn't stand for that. We should stand for the people's rights. So that's it. I ask you guys, like I said, find not guilty. Do the right thing. Thank you for your time.
I am going to, before we begin, I'm going to further instruct the jury that any law that you're going to hear and consider is going to come from me. I am the one who is going to tell you what the law is, because I am the one whose duty it is to tell you what the law is and what the instructions are. You'll hear facts from the parties, but any law that you hear from the parties, you can disregard, because that is absolutely going to come from instruction from me. So.
Objection, I object to that. You saying I can't make a legal argument?
I didn't say you couldn't make a legal argument, sir. I said that any instruction in the law, they're going to hear from me. I'm just making sure that they understand that where the law that they're going to apply and where that law comes from, and that's going to come from me, because that's the way it works. And with regard to Mr. Martin's statements that I have, or this court has in any way, shape, or form violated its constitutional rights, I'm going to just note for the fact that this court has been nothing but patient to make sure that Mr. Martin is able to make a record about everything he wants to make a record about. And there has been no violation of any of his constitutional rights. So I'm not going to mention any of the motions that were made, even though he mentioned them. You're going to disregard any of those because those are not evidence. That has nothing to do with the case itself. So we're going to proceed with the first witness, Mr. Greco.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. The City of Taylor calls Officer Anthony Moore to the stand.
Officer Moore, do you solemnly swear affirm the testimony about to give us the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please be seated, sir.
Okay, Officer Moore, please state your name for the record.
Officer Anthony Borg.
And are you currently employed?
I am.
And where are you currently employed?
The City of Taylor Police Department.
Okay. And what is your position of employment there?
I am a patrolman.
Okay. Does that include, do your job duties and responsibilities include traffic law enforcement?
Yes.
Okay. How long have you been a member of the City of Taylor Police Department?
Approximately 5 years.
Okay. Are you assigned to a specific detail or patrol?
I'm currently assigned to the Traffic Bureau.
Okay, so this is what your regular job is traffic enforcement?
Correct.
In addition to general police duties?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, I want to take you back specifically to July 11th, 2023 at approximately 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, were you working that day?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall where you were in the City of Taylor at approximately 4 o'clock that day?
I was sitting in the entrance to Heritage Park off of North Line Road.
Okay. And what were you doing there generally?
At that time, I was monitoring the traffic at the intersection of North Line and Racco.
Okay. Do you recall encountering a person or a human by the name of Eric Martin that day?
Yes,
Okay. And is Eric Martin in the court today?
yes.
Okay, where is he?
Sitting at that table in the collared white shirt.
Okay, for the record, Your Honor, I'd like to point out that the witness has identified Mr. Martin at the defense counsel table.
So noted.
Okay, what were the circumstances under which you encountered Mr. Martin at that day and time?
I was watching the traffic at the intersection of North Line and Racco when I observed a red moped traveling northbound on Racco Road approaching North Line. At that time, the light for the northbound traffic on Racco was red. As the moped approached the intersection, I observed what I believe to be a flat tire on the rear of the moped. While the light was still red, Mr. Martin exited off the moped in the middle of the roadway, walked to the back and was looking at the tire. While he was doing this, the light turned green. After approximately 2-3 seconds, he proceeded to get back onto his moped where he crossed over North Line Road into the entrance of Heritage Park.
And what did you do at that time?
At that time, I was waiting for, as I was parked stationary in the entrance to Heritage Park, he was traveling towards me. I was waiting for him to get to my location, and I was going to initiate a traffic stop for impeding the flow of traffic at the time.
Okay. And for the defective tire?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is it? Okay, so at that point in time, he was coming toward you?
Yes.
Okay, so what's the next thing that happened?
I initiated a traffic stop.
Okay, did you pull out behind him or did you get out and wave or what did you do?
So as he approached me, I activated the lights on my patrol car. I exited out of the driver's seat and I advised him to come over to my location.
Okay, all right, because he's on a moped and he can go right toward you?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the moped is what we would consider a standard moped, like a two-wheeled vehicle, correct?
Yes.
Propelled by a motor,
Yes.
correct? Okay. Or self-propelled by a motor. Okay. All right. So you call Mr. Martin over. At that, let's say, prior to July 11, had you had any interaction with Mr. Martin?
I have had prior interaction with Mr. Martin.
Right. Did you recognize him that day?
As he started approaching closer to my patrol vehicle, I recognized him.
Okay. All right. So now you waved him over. He comes over to you. What's the next thing that happened?
He brings the moped over to my patrol vehicle as I exit. I told him to come on over. I asked him for his driver's license, at which point he told me that he did not need to provide one. I reiterated to him that he did need to provide a driver's license as he was driving a motor vehicle on the roadway. At that time, he produced me with a Michigan identification card.
Okay. So is a Michigan identification card something that's distinguishable from a driver's license?
Yes.
It's not a driver's license, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did he indicate to you that he did not have a driver's license?
He made a comment stating that he did not have a driver's license.
Okay. So he hands you a Michigan ID card, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What is it that you do next at that time when he hands you that?
At that point, another coworker, Officer Anthony, arrived on scene. While he stood by with Mr. Martin, I went to my patrol vehicle. Using the in-car computer, I queried Mr. Martin's name information, which indicated that his driver's license was in fact revoked.
Officer Varg, I'm going to approach you with what's been marked as People's Exhibit Number 1. Just take a moment to look at that. Now, before I ask you about this, your testimony is that when you had looked up on your in-car computer, which is it linked to the Secretary of State?
Yes.
Okay. And it come up Eric Martin revoked, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, I've handed you what's been marked as Plaintiffs or People's Exhibit Number 1. Can you take a look at that and tell me what this is?
It is Mr. Eric Martin's driving record.
Okay. Does it indicate anything with regard to the status of his driving record?
His status is currently revoked.
Okay. Now, it looks like that this is a certified driving record, electronically certified in compliance with 257.204A as of October 23rd, 2024. So this looks like it's his current driving record, correct?
Yes.
And in looking at the driving record, does it provide prior violations or sanctions?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And up at the top, it says revoked, correct, on the upper right?
Yes.
And then with regard to the violations, I see some regarding 2020 years, 2021 and 2022. Can you see where the sanctions are for the Secretary of State and what it indicates?
Yes, it indicates revoked.
Okay. So those would be years prior to your stop on July 11th, 2023, correct?
Yes.
So it indicates that his license was revoked before that time, and it was in fact revoked as of the day that you stopped him?
Yes.
And it appears that it's still revoked today, correct?
Correct.
Your Honor, the people would move for admission of exhibit number 1.
Your Honor, after speaking with Mr. Martin as his co-counsel as to rules of evidence, I would state that this is an exception to the hearsay rule under 803.6 in MCL 257.204A, so we have no objection to stop.
I would concur, admitted as People's Exhibit 1 or A?
1, I think we marked it as 1.
People's Exhibit 1.
Thank you. Okay, after your encounter with Mr. Martin, or at least during, and after you ran his name in your computer and saw that he had a revoked license or didn't have a valid one at that time, what is the next thing that you did with respect to Mr. Martin? What did you do?
The next thing that I did was I placed Mr. Martin under arrest for driving on a revoked license. I placed him in handcuffs, placed him in the back of my patrol vehicle. At that time, I queried the registration on the moped in our in-car computer, which was registered to Mr. Martin. While querying that, it also indicated that there was no insurance on the moped. It would say EIVN, which is electronic insurance verification, and the N stands for no. At that time, I issued Mr. Martin a citation for driving on a revoked license, no proof of insurance, and a defective tire for the rear flat tire. I advised Mr. Martin that he could exit my patrol vehicle. I unhandcuffed him, issued him a citation, explained him how to take care of it, and advised him that his moped was to be towed by area towing.
And why did the moped need to be towed by area towing?
Well, I couldn't just leave it in the park. Mr. Martin did not have a valid driver's license to drive it away from the scene. It had a rear flat tire and no insurance on the moped, which you're required to have insurance on a motor vehicle.
And through the department, do we have an official policy on how to inventory property and things?
Yes.
So you're not authorized to throw it in your trunk and drive away?
Correct.
No, it needs to be properly accounted for, both for the evidence for the issue or even just the property, and also for the safety and or convenience of the parties that you may be inventorying something, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Based upon your observation and you running Mr. Martin's record, it did appear to be over the age of 19, correct?
Yes.
Born in 1973?
Yes.
And this stop, this brief investigation by you and the issuance of the citation all occurred within the city of Taylor, correct?
Yes, it did.
And you observed him operating the moped on the roadway, correct?
I did, yes.
I have no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Cross-examination. Mr. Martin, will you be doing cross-examination or will Mr.?
Yes, and in addition, Tim, anything additional he wants to add, of course.
Okay, so you're going to, and then anything he wants to, sure.
Yeah. Hey, Anthony Bower, we have evidence that the so-called moped goes over 30 miles an hour. Are you aware of it?
I don't have evidence of that. No.
Okay, question number 2. We have evidence that the motor the so-called motor, as you said, is in excess exceeding 100 cc?
No,
Okay, now you said you recognize me. Where do you recognize me from?
your address on Clifford Street?
Right. More specific, so to be more specific?
Your address, the 9,000 block of Clifford?
All right. But I mean, do you recognize me from filing a lot of complaints on you and your officers?
I don't.
And your other officers, that's not.
I don't. I recognize you from the domestic violence disputes that we called to at your residence.
Are you aware that I filed many complaints on Taylor police officers for the Taylor Police Department?
I'm not, that's not a part of my job description or duties to deal with complaints or to know about people who file complaints.
So you haven't heard it from a fellow police officer? He wrote complaints on us.
No, I have not.
Next question. I'm sell things right now, but so you say when I was crossing North Line, my tire went flat and I stopped, and that's wait, hold on, before we go there, you said I was impeding traffic. You made that statement. You elaborate more on it. How was I impeding traffic? Was that on, where was that at?
You're on Racco Road, sitting at the red light at North Line.
Right.
When the light had turned green, you were off of your moped, standing at the rear of your bike, looking at your tire while there's traffic behind you, impeding their flow of traveling when the light turned green.
And how long do you allege that this happened that I impeded traffic?
Approximately 3 to 5 seconds. I'm not exactly sure. It was a short period of time.
You said the light was green then? During this 3 to 5 seconds, or was it red or what?
When you first exited the moped, the light was red, but as you exited the moped, the light had turned green.
When the light turned green, did I hurry to take off, or was I still there, or what?
When the light turned green, you were standing in the middle of the roadway at the rear of your moped.
For how long?
Like I said, approximately 3 to 5 seconds.
Do you have any video evidence to support that?
I'm not 100% sure what my dash camera picked up at the time.
Okay. So now, you were the ticket for defective type. Can you elaborate more on that? What's the problem with it? Well, you said it's defective. What do you mean by defective tire?
The tire on the moped was flat, and you were operating it on the roadway.
How long was I operating the road? Was it short term?
Prior to my contact with you, I'm unsure how long you were operating it on the roadway. But when I observed you, you were operating the moped with a flat tire on the roadway.
So the truth say it was short term then? You observed me? It was a flat tire, then I stopped, got off it, right?
Like I said, I observed you traveling northbound on Racco, approaching North Line, stop at the intersection, and then proceed through it, the Heritage Park entrance up.
How much longer after that? How many feet after the light? Or
I'm not sure. I didn't measure it.
well, let's say in general, looking, going off. I know exactly. You can have a tape ruler, but by your visual observation, how long was I traveling with this flat tire? What seemed to be, it seemed to be a flat tire. How long did you see me traveling from North Line? Is it true to say it was a short distance?
I'm unsure of the distance. I just observed you traveling on the road of Racco.
Well, let's take a guess. Would you say it's
I don't feel
50 feet,
comfortable
100 feet? 50 feet, 100 feet?
Like I said before, I don't feel comfortable guessing on how far I watched you travel on the roadway.
Well, then in that case, do you have any diagrams to show? Do you have any evidence to show from point A to point B where I suppose you traveled on this flat tire?
I do not have any diagrams. I just recall you traveling on Racco Road on the roadway operating the moped.
You can't say whether it's short term or long term. So you want to say that, right? Generally.
I can.
All right. Forgetting anything else here? Are you guys schooled on the right to travel law?
Could you repeat the question?
Are you guys schooled as a tailored police officer, you specifically? Have you been schooled on the right to travel by the U.S. Supreme Court? Like what the U.S. Supreme Court says on that law, have you guys been schooled on that at all?
Schooled?
Taught, yeah, what it teaches about people's right to travel. Instead of just these statutes that you guys are always going off of. You've been trained, use the word
He's
trained.
asking a fact witness about
Yeah,
something law with regard to the Supreme Court.
it's the same.
Okay, well, trained, I only use the word trained. That's okay, I only use the word trained. Have you been trained on the law of right to travel? You could ask that. I'm aware of this,
It's not about that. You're asking somebody who is not a law professor or
No.
an attorney, whether or not, he's already answered your question. Have you been schooled or trained? And he's saying, no. they didn't have
Factualized.
Special training. So
Right, okay, well, that's what I'm going to change. What does your training consist of as to what the laws are?
There's a legal portion of the police academy and regular in-house police training provided by the police department.
As to one supposedly driving. Do they touch anything about the right to travel?
I know you need a driver's license to operate a motor vehicle on the roadway.
Right. What about? They haven't mentioned nothing to about the right to travel.
As I've stated, I've been trained and taught in my academy and in police training that you need a driver's license to operate a motor vehicle on the roadway.
That's all the questions right now. Do I reserve my right if I think of any more? That's it for now.
Mr. Hadley, anything?
Good afternoon, Officer.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I just have a couple quick questions. There's no trick questions today. You know the answers to everything I'm going to ask you, okay? You did create a police report after the stop of Mr. Martin, correct?
Yes, it is.
It's factually accurate. Your police report didn't have any photographs of the rear tire attached to it, correct?
Correct, it did not.
Okay. The day that you were out patrolling, did you have the body worn camera?
I did.
And was it active and working that day?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And as part of the preparation for this case, did you have an opportunity to go back over your body worn cam? I mean, I kind of remind yourself of what happened that day.
I believe at some point during one of the court proceedings, I
Got a chance to go back and just kind of see what happened that day.
yes.
Okay. Your prior testimony was you were stationary, correct? And Mr. Martin was driving towards you?
Yes.
Okay. So you could, it sounds kind of obvious, but you couldn't see the back tire as he was driving towards you, correct?
The back tire
Yes, of the moped as he was driving towards you, because it was in the back.
initially, no.
Okay. Mr. Martin didn't resist or physically prevent you from fulfilling your duties that day, did he?
He did not. At first, he did not want to provide me with his driver's license, but as I told him that he was required to by the state law, he then provided it. His identification card.
So now I am going to put the words in your mouth a little bit. So it'd be true to say the only evidence we have of the condition of Mr. Martin's tire that day, let me back up, strike that. Can we agree that the video of your body worn cam doesn't depict maybe a very crystal clear image of that rear tire?
I'm not sure. I didn't watch the body camera today before today's court hearing.
More than happy to. The stop itself is about 4 or 5 minutes. I don't really want to belabor the process, but if it'd be helpful, would you like to, again? Or how about we do this instead? Can you tell me where your body worn cam is positioned on your uniform as to like what it would typically record as your? Tell me when to stop as far as like. So if you and I are here,
My body camera's right here. My body.
But let the record reflect that the witness took a standing position at the witness chair, and he's touching the middle right side of his chest.
would it be fair if we're standing close together that you would only see the upper half of my body? You might not see everything that's below.
I guess it just depends on how close we are while interacting with each other.
Mr. Hadley, I don't mean to interrupt, but when you step in between the podium and there, you go into a dead zone.
Can't hear me.
Yeah, it's true.
My apologies. Should have addressed that before I moved around the well.
I should have let everybody know about that, but please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. The officer really don't have any further questions to go down this line. So we're in clarification. There was no picture of the rear tire, correct?
Taken from me, no. I know when area towing takes possession of a vehicle, they do photograph the vehicle on the bed of their tow truck prior to leaving the scene.
So for today's purposes, the only evidence that's being admitted would be your testimony as to what the condition of the tire was, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I have no further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
That's no questions. I forgot. Why did you, what was the reason you pulled me over? Or making me come to you?
My initial reason was because you were impeding the flow of traffic at the intersection of North Line and Racco.
It wasn't for a flat tire. Next question. Now, did I provide you my ID by consent, or was it due to your threat of saying I must provide it?
I'm going to say it's objection. It calls for speculation. He doesn't know what you're thinking.
No, I'm asking him why. I'm asking why did you make me give you my ID? Did you make me give you my
Objection,
ID?
Your Honor. Asked and answered. He's already testified about the interaction and how he ended up with Mr. Martin's ID.
Sustained.
No questions, all right?
Mr. Hadley, anything further from the side?
Absolutely not. We'd ask the court to excuse this witness if there's nothing for redirect.
Yeah. I have no further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Officer Ward, you may step down. Thank you for your testimony, sir. Thank you. Mr. Greco, you can call your next witness.
Your Honor, the prosecution has no further witnesses. The prosecution rests with your testimony of Officer Ward and what is established with respect.
Now it's time for payback.
Digital switchover is coming. You'll be digital like me someday, you know? I ever told you about the 80s, the 80s, the 80s?
And thanks for hanging out with us on Facts or Frauds. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button, you're subscribed, and ring that bell for notifications so next time I premiere a video, you can be in a live chat with everyone else and leave a comment in the comment section. Tell them what you think. And a huge thank you to all of our Facts or Frauds channel members. And if you're still hanging out, thank you. I appreciate you all. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, you're subscribed, and leave a comment in the comment section. Tell me what you think. Until next time, I'll see you soon.